I'll What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good day. Working on my watercolor painting here that I've been working on for a couple days. I haven't been able to stream much or do much art this last week and a half because I was painting porches to make money. But that was finished the other day. In the spirit of free time, I wanted to come on and say, hey, I'm close to the end of this painting. I'll be peeling the tape on this episode today, and maybe even starting another one. I'm not sure. Not sure what I want to draw next. This is a study of multiple references. I was just trying to educate myself on some color, and mainly I'm trying to improve on my watercolor. I really love the medium, and I still haven't been through enough scenarios with it, so I'm trying to just kind of put myself through the mileage, you know what I mean? I have a lot more miles on acrylic and opaque style painting than I do with transparent style painting, but I'm actually really happy with how this one has come out. I'm getting better with working with the negative space and the light to the dark, but I still make a lot of mistakes, and I'm still not quite finding the colors everywhere I need it all the time. So yeah, this is my attempt at just improving my watercolor skills. I love it, and I love the combination of gouache with it. So, and there's some watercolor artists out there that achieve the sort of painterly look with it, which I really love. So I've been trying to capture that, and at least the closest I've gotten to that sort of painterly look with it. It was really difficult, honestly. This is challenging. There's something challenging about it. I think it's the constant dance between how you think something's gonna dry versus how it actually dries. But again, that's the mileage thing. Like, the more paintings I do, the more each color I use with watercolor, I understand how it works. Because that's something about painting I learned right away, or soon into it, was that every color is really different in how it reacts to lightening it or darkening it or mixing it. All the pigments have different strengths in which they'll take over different like other colors easier than others, and so yeah, I'm working on all that. And I need to use watercolor as much as I have acrylic. You know, I can't, you know, definitely some of it carries over, but it's a different process and thought process as well. But I'm pretty happy with this one. This one's on a 9x12 inch. Believe it's 9x12 artboard. I've been loving it. Kind of like these little mini canvases, and they're already on a board, so it's like they're ready to go if someone buys it. This will be original. This will be available on my website as prints and original at some point after the stream. There's a discount code today, Mountains, that you can use on my website for anything off. Discount off anything, I mean. I said that kind of weird. I'll show you here. We have the recent Pumpkin Purgatory original is up. I haven't done the prints yet because I'm torn on it. The thing with prints is they come out duller and darker than what you have normally. So it's kind of a dark painting. I want to just keep it to the original, but keep in mind all shipping and insurance is included. I send it out with insurance in case it gets damaged. I have had it happen in the past, and so we both get our money back. But it's Mountains. Type it in at checkout, and you can get yourself a discount code. Oops! Don't ignore that screen. I pressed the wrong hotkey there. Let me see. Let me fix my camera screen. I made this screen recently just to have a full camera shot, basically, occasionally. I kind of like video edit it before I have to edit it later. But anyway. Hope you all are doing good. Anyone hopping in soon? Just fixing some things on the back end here really quick. Cool. Hey, what's up, fam? I'm here, tired. I'm sorry you're tired, Kate. Hope you get a good sleep tonight. And that changes in the morning. And Stephanie, what's going on? Good to see you, good to see you. It's a watercolor paint I've been kind of chipping away at on it. 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I did my whole spiel about it already. You can rewind and watch it later if you want, but I'm on the quest to continually improve my watercolor skills because I really like the medium and I want to be able to wield it like I can with acrylic. So just kind of setting out to try out some landscapes and different subjects, but this is all watercolor, very little gouache. That's how I want to keep it, you know. I realize if it's gonna be like the way I'm thinking of it and through my experience, it's like if it's gonna be a gouache painting only, then it's best to just pretty much do pure gouache. If it's gonna be a watercolor painting, it's best to do mostly watercolor, I think, and then a little bit of gouache at the end, some touches. Like on this river here, I used some white gouache just for some water highlights. Overall happy with it. It's kind of where it's gonna be for the most part. The one thing that I kind of missed in my eyes that I was trying to get was the sun that's coming through this here is mainly hitting here, and this mountain should be casting a more of a shadow here. But I've kind of dug myself a hole to where it would take a lot of recoloring and manipulation to kind of darken all that and maintain the same hues I want. Because greens and yellows, man, they're so finicky. They're hard to sort of control, so I like where it is mostly, and I've learned a lot off this particular painting. So I think I'll just take that with me into the next one and hopefully do it more correctly. And it's a subtle thing. It's just basically like this section of the painting here would be darker a little bit more, like over here. But it's pretty close to where I was picturing it. The other thing I want to improve on next time is my sky color wash. I'm still trying to figure out how to get a more pure looking fill, which I see some watercolor artists do, and I don't know if I'm not using enough pigment in my palette or if I'm using too much water. My guess is I'm using too little pigment, so it's sort of spreading it out in these little clumps. But I think if I like use watercolor white and watercolor blue next time, or whatever, turquoise or cerulean rather, and just try to make it a thicker paint, I think that might be better. But I don't know, it's overall okay. It shares the texture of the rest of the painting, so it looks like it fits. But yeah, again, I am going to I forgot to before I started the stream, I'm gonna go refill my water. It's a little dirty. Your water does get to a point with watercolors where you gotta change it because transparents are so sensitive that even just the dirty water from the bucket can add color to it. So I'll be right back, 1 second. All right, there we go. Another great reason I love watercolors. That was so easy to clean. Paint came right off. Wearing actually good clothes right now. I gotta be careful. I've had to untrain my twitch to wipe my paintbrush off on my pant leg. It was kind of a habit I developed when I first started painting, and I realized that I'd rather just get better at like using a sponge or something, which I have been using lately. They're great. All right, let's see. I've been kind of just chipping away at some tree work here, the distant tiny trees. So yeah. Get a sign it. Add a few more trees. Pretty close, like I said. I mainly wanted to come on and say hey, let you know I'm still here. I'm gonna be I took the time to film this one a little bit better. I'm trying to up the quality of my afterwards videos, like the time lapses and stuff, and so I'm gonna be releasing a long form and then like a reel, like 2 different versions. Thinking about trying to be like a teaser about it, like show like most of it on the reel and be like, if you want to see the final result, go to my YouTube channel. But I don't know if I want to be like that because I hate that shit too. I just feel like shorts, man, like they give it all away in too short of a form. It's like you're summarizing large ideas into very short videos, and it's hard to keep up with as an artist, I think. Unless I'm literally just like making a reel every day of like my current progress on the painting, which I've tried that before, but I find it to be a little boring. Like I find it a little boring when I find other people doing the same thing, and like their video is about just the recent hour work on their painting. And to me, I think that's a result of just these social media platforms convincing everyone they need to upload every single day. And that's just like something you can do because you all, if you've been here a while on Planet Jokum channel, you've seen me try that before. I tried doing a drawing a day, and it's very difficult to maintain. And it also creates this thing where I'm not able to sort of work things out as much as I would like. Like the 4-hour speed paintings we were doing, those were great. I learned a lot about, I think what I learned was like kind of the opposite, like what not to spend time on, you know? But in the same double-edged sword, it resulted in not spending enough time on things that maybe if that idea I would have spent, you know, turned it into a 20-hour painting rather, it would have been more fleshed out. But it's always better, I think, overall to get through more ideas than not. However, there are times to sort of slow down and learn, and that's what I've been doing with this watercolor here, like just kind of actively making mental notes. Like, okay, that worked, that didn't. Like finding new techniques. 'Cause I remember when I first started acrylic, I was finding new techniques all the time. Yeah, those are really intense. I had to really find out, like, I think it really taught me how to, like, to worry more about the main subject of a painting. Like the essence of a painting. Because, you know, if you look at the snail, for example, like the city snail, a lot of it's worked out, most of it. But then you look at the rest of it, it's kind of tossed in there. The background, the landscape. And I remember I specifically rendered the snail's face the most. The city isn't even that rendered. I had to kind of rush on the city, you know. That's an example where like I probably would have spent more time on the city. But it's more about like the snail and the city as a whole rather than the snail or the city. Does that make sense? But I really like these artboards, man. Want to get through my little artboard stack that I bought. They're a good little size too for like when I go out to the markets and sell my stuff. City Snail would be awesome as a full-blown painting with all the time in the world. Yeah, exactly, because you could, you can imagine all the different ways to work that one out. So this is like all little properties, separated little houses and stuff. I was trying to do like a more down-to-earth one. It's good to study Earth, because that's where most drawing ideas come from. The rest is kind of twisting that, right? We're a little bit more above these trees, so you'll see the round bottom a little bit more than trees way out in the distance. Little tiny things like that go a long way. Even though someone looking at it isn't directly acknowledging it, like, oh, look at the base of those trees, they're really in perspective. It doesn't matter. The brain picks up on them being in perspective anyway. And perspective gets a little more lost in these giant landscapes because everything's kind of organically shaped and there's not really strong edges revealing the vanishing points and everything, but it's still worth trying to pull that out if you can. So I'm not really sure about that dark green patch, so I'm just gonna make it into some trees, like a tree patch. Kind of reactivating my watercolors here a little bit. I'm learning too. I remember before when I first started watercoloring, I was like, oh, white paper is the same as white watercolor paint. It's not necessarily. So I've noticed a few differences in that. I think what it is saturation. To where it's sort of the white paper will lighten it and desaturate it for sure, but it's more saturated than if you take a color with the white watercolor paint and then paint that transparently. And I guess the way to show that is it's kind of the difference between this green and this green up in the foreground. And to be honest, these greens right here, after studying a few pictures I saw, it's because the way it's the species of grass, whatever people grow, it's just greener than like normal forest grass. So just kind of that's what that was there. These are supposed to be cloud shadows. That's another one that I think I can improve on next time. The cloud shadow over here. Congratulations on winning that contest, by the way. Oh yeah, thank you so much for voting. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, that was awesome. Smashed it out of the park. It was like got like 75 more votes that day I posted it. It was awesome. Yeah, so appreciate that. Awesome. Trying to work my way out there in exposure one step at a time. So that was a $100 win, and then also it got put in two stores, a postal office and an insurance place. So getting it out there in all different weird ways if I can, So a little technique I learned recently from this painting but actually it was pretty reliable. So take some paper towel or a sponge, you know, whatever you want to use, and just pure water. And like say you want to make like soften up your cloud edges a little bit, which I was spending a lot of time on here. So like right here, let's say I want this white cloud to seem a little more feathered and poofed out into the sky on this edge here. Push pure water, push out, reactivate it. Only push out. Don't bring it back in this way. Just to the right. Lift up to the right. Lift up to the right. And take the paper towel, dab it real quick. Look at that. It's just perfect little blended feather wisp. And I realize it goes both ways. You can achieve it with painting it at first with the right amounts of water and stuff, which I did on some of the edges, but I realized not really. But look at that, it's just perfect blended wispy cloud part, and I've done that on all the edges of my clouds, and I really liked how it looked this time around. Like right here, let's say I want to bring this part out, only pushing to the direction I want it to go, and then a quick dab before it dries. And sometimes you gotta get a little more gentle with it on just the edge. There you go, a little wispy thing. And depending on how much you rub is the varying degree at which it will go to white. And this works for like parts of the painting that don't have a lot of paint on it yet, in my opinion. Yeah, that's awesome. It's really good exposure. Hopefully, you know. I wouldn't say it's like insane exposure. I don't know how many people are going to the post office to buy prints, but it's out there, you know. I'm just trying to like increase the amount of different places. The other thing I'm getting into and I've been actively working towards is there's a few places I've already talked to the owners we're gonna go. I'm gonna go over there and paint them kind of like, you know, a POV, point of view of perspective, and get those in there as well. This I sketched out with pencil really lightly, main shapes. I went from there. I'm so torn between like 3 different styles, but that's why I keep jumping, you know. Like you have like the hard pen and ink line, you have like the painterly. You have the hard pen and ink line, watercolor, and then like the painterly watercolor. I like both. I also like the hybrid in between, where it's like painterly and a little bit of blend of outlining. Guess I'm closer to the end of this painting than I thought before I started this stream. Hope that's not too disappointing. I don't have much time today. Gonna have to go cook dinner pretty soon. But I just want to stay consistent as I can. Best at Star Trek. Yo, what's up, brother? Hey man, that looks great. Stopping by to say yo, still at work. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good day at work. The watercolor painting I've been trying to get right. I'm overall happy with it. It's giving me that feeling when I'm trying to market. It's not giving me many more questions, and that's what I was talking about before, where you think, you know, do you have any more questions about the painting? I don't really. And not in the sense of like, what's that? Everything's pretty readable. I've recognized that I've said last 5 minutes over like what I'm going to try to do better next time. What does painterly feel dumb? So painterly versus like graphic would be like basically it's more feathered and blended and soft and blobby, you know, paint strokes, brush strokes. And then so I could show an example of it on my website pretty well, because I bounce between the 2 styles a lot. So like, for example, this would be painterly here. Doesn't really give me a good size of it, but this would be a painterly painting. This would be a painterly painting. It's blended, everything's kind of soft. It's more natural looking, and then this would be a more graphic one. Hard line work, you know, really decided shapes. Painterly kind of, it lets the brain, painterly paintings let the brain make up its own detail. And graphic ones kind of like tell you, like, no, this is exactly the detail. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you ever see those really impressionistic ones? Like the extreme painterly side, it's almost like those oil paintings you see them do where they use just knives, and it's like really just vague, but like when you back up from it, everything makes really good sense. And almost like you know, you see people walking down the street, but you look at like what he did, the shape he made for that person on the road, and it's like literally a blob. So that's the difference. I love how watercolors just dry into something better than you thought it would be. Yeah, man, I mean, that's been the challenge, is controlling, or like knowing what I put on the paper is what that's going to be when it dries. And trusting that process has been hard to learn. And I realize the more miles I get on that, the more I can control what happens with my watercolor. I get it, like Monet versus Rembrandt, or Monet, I don't know how to say that first word. Never used either of those words in my life, but I'm sure they're synonyms to simpler words. Finish dabbing in this tree over here. I bring up the saturation as usual as I come closer to the foreground. The trees will get a little bigger, slightly. It's very easy to make trees too big when you're this far away. Made that mistake many times. I'm just picturing all these little properties that have their yards split up by trees and fences. Bushes. Looks a lot like how Tennessee looks, where I'm from. Very Tennessee looking. It's not as high elevation, I'd say. Lower the mountains a little bit, and that's Tennessee. Favorite is when you bend two styles. Yeah, I like it too. I think I always kind of end up doing that a little bit anyway. Like, this one isn't necessarily calling for black outline. Like I could black outline like the edge of this mountain, and then, but that would open a whole fucking can of worms where we'd have to do the whole thing. But then it would just look different, you know. This is the way it looks. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not change it back. My bad. Yeah, I just realized that as I saw your comment. They're artists, Monet. They are artists. Monet, impressionistic, Rembrandt, realism. Yeah, I gotcha. Yep. You know, like Van Gogh versus like Dali. Like painterly doesn't mean it's just with paint. You know, you could paint. There's a lot of artists I follow on Instagram. They do really graphic, awesome looking acrylics. You know, they're like juicy and really saturated and look cartoony, but they're like really defined. It's a cool style. Yeah, I know. I realize that. Sorry. The discount code today, by the way, is mountains on the website. Expires tonight at midnight. I want to make a few more stickers too. It'd be fun. Do that next time. I still think I'm dialing my saturation back a tad, but I'm pretty happy with this. Last few watercolor paintings I've done of like landscapes, I because of how much I'm used to having to desaturate acrylics because they're really saturated, I like overdid it with watercolor, but now I'm kind of coming back the other way. Because the thing is, it's over white paper, it's transparent, so it's always going to be getting desaturated, like from a lot to a little bit, depending on how much the white paper shows through. I think what I want is these cliffs to have a little bit more shadow to them. I've been using the raw umber and blue for my shadows, or like, you know, my shadow mixture. You can make a nice warm gray with blue and brown, or purple and brown, depending which way you want to go. You know, if you'd pick burnt sienna over raw umber, it'll be a warmer, you know, gray than raw umber. I'm going raw umber, it's a little colder. Ooh, stickers, mom loves Yeti. Haven't placed the others yet. Nice, I'm so glad she loves it. So let me see what this does over here. And I'm gonna take out my trusty hair dryer to speed this process along. It's, I gotta say, it's something I wouldn't think of off the bat, but it speeds up the watercolor learning process to hair dry it, so you don't have to wait. However, that it comes with a disclaimer, I think, to where there's certain techniques with watercolor that the way it dries won't look the way it dries compared, like it'll look different drying naturally slowly than sped dried. Like sometimes it sort of the speed drying will like kind of stop the reaction of just certain puddles in the watercolor, where if they were left to mingle a little bit longer, it would kind of get a little softer. So with the hair dryer, you can kind of end up making things look a little too hard, and to like counter that, that would be like the way to decide, am I using a hair dryer or not? You know what I mean? Hey, what's up? Hopefully that made sense. I'll be back in 1 second. I have to go to the bathroom. Thanks for sticking around. What's up? That's interesting. Hairdryer's hardness. I learned today. Ooh, I like this. I didn't see him paint this one live. Oh yeah, the one on the intermission screen. Yeah, that's an older one, man. That's one of my like earlier acrylic paintings. But yeah, the hairdryer. And there's two settings, you know, like if you put it on the high setting, it'll dry it real fast. But BRB phone, nice. Enjoy the phone call. What's up? Looking for something? Nice, yeah. I made that little circle around her. It's funny. She did. Look how comfy she looks. I spoil our cats because they're adorable. I mean, you know, how can you not spoil a little soft, like innocent creature that just squeaks at you all day? You know?
Yeah, I do. I spoil them with you.
Steph says hi, Kay. I'm getting that urge to peel the tape. It's like right there. Okay, I got a sign. Sign. Yeah, I learned from it. I think it's done. I think it's time. It's done. I think I can go one more tiny notch on the cliff shadows here. One hair darker. I think I forgot to mention about the browns too, is sometimes browns will be lighter than others, like the natural mixes of them, so you can be like, oh, I'm gonna use burnt umber because it's darker, and because I don't want to use black, because it's easy to think like, oh, lighten just white, darken just black. No, like you can darken things with purple, red, blue, and green, depending on their relevant value to the other color you're mixing them with or darkening them with. So like yellow, right? You can pretty much use anything to darken it because it's the lightest color in the spectrum for the most part. The weakest, lightest color. Hey, Stevie. Also, I find watercolor has a wide array of whether your brush is wet or dry, and I encourage you to play with that constantly. Like, don't just always have a super wet brush, because then everything looks the same. So you find out that, like, different things call for different amounts of water. Like sky is large amounts of water. You gotta cover the paper really fast and get things blended before they dry. Because what I find with watercolor and skies is if you don't get it in one shot, you end up seeing all the paintbrush strokes, and it's really hard to get everything to look soft. And it's actually that's like one of the weird things that kind of transcends from acrylic, carries over, is you gotta do the sky fast with acrylic. I think oil is the only one you can just like relax and, oh, it doesn't dry, and oh, that cloud I painted an hour ago, I'm just gonna blend it still. It's like, that's an oil exclusive thing, and I think that's why people love oil. You know, granted its cons with like the chemicals and its messiness and its, you know, how thick it is to use and stuff, and all the thinning agents you gotta buy. You can't just use water, you gotta get linseed oil and all this stuff. It comes with the pro of just probably the most optimal painting experience with like blending and stuff. Like the first 3 years and 4 years of painting it with acrylics and water-based medium was like fighting the drying, or learning to work with the drying rather. It goes both ways. And then next came thinning and thickening technique, which, believe it or not, like with acrylic you can do washes. Like pretty much any water-based paint you can thin to the point where it becomes transparent. I just think transparent mediums perform better on paper than they do on canvas. And I don't know if it has to do with how canvases are or the texture of them. But there's something about the little pits in the canvas pits and valleys that it shows up in the painting. Because what happens is with thicker paint, it fills those in, kind of like mud on drywall, you know. So yeah, that brought out that cliff much more. And going to do the opposite with the white gouache. For those of you who don't know how to pronounce it, it's gouache. I'm just kidding. Gouache. It's gouache. If I was to say the American English version, you know, maybe somewhere in another country it's not that. Wonder how a South African would say it. Gouache. South Africans are like, a lot of British influence over there. Like when you see like a black person with a British accent, isn't that like kind of where they're from? Or London too. London has a lot of that going on. I'm so bad geographically in my head. So I think I'm gonna take, for my cliff I was just using this brown. He's ecking. He was ecking earlier at this bird too, and it made me want to go outside and like relocate the bird feeder just to right in front of the window. So it makes him eck all day. Yeah. So I want to come in with a little bit of white highlight here. I'm starting to soft with it because edges are important in painting. And right here, what's happening in my brain is this edge is too melded with the mountain from very far behind it. So I want to separate that a little more so that it looks like a cliff that's overlapping that green patch. That's, you know, if I had to guess, let's see, so if this goes to here, that's probably a solid quarter mile back from the edge of that mountain. And a lot of things that have new names since you guys have been there. Good. Throw away the dictionary. Make your own. I'm glad we broke you guys. I'm still laughing at picturing a cactus that run at you in the desert. I think that's one of the best visuals I've ever thought of with y'all, like, in a long time. Because you just, like, if you know, it's silly, but if you just take a second to suspend the silliness and actually imagine a world where you had to be careful in the desert because there's a specific cactus that actually runs at you. Like, you get in a 50-yard radius of it and you're immediately screwed. Like, that's the messed up shit, because think you come across a patch of them. That'd be something that'd be fun to work out if I was like super pro CGI animator. Just like do a 3. Unfortunately, I think I lost connection, but it's. I think it's tempting again. Connected back a couple times, but it hasn't quite gotten through. Says I'm back on now. Is it the same for y'all? Anyone hopping back in? I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it's back.
Yeah, you're back.
I don't know what just happened. It just kind of like disconnected and reconnected like 3 times out of nowhere, so I'm really sorry about that. Let me see if I've made 3 separate streams. Okay, so yeah, it did separate it into a new stream on Twitch, which I know, which means it does it on the other ones, because Twitch is the only one that's sophisticated enough to... Okay. Oh, shit. Mm-hmm. Are we back? I'm gonna close some tabs here. I think it might just be going a little too hard. Sorry about that, y'all. Are we back? We're good? Yeah, you're back. Sorry about that. Yeah.